Guys, welcome back into another episode, and for today's episode, Lou and I have the task of going through 10 different albums and deciding and ranking what our top 5 songs are on each and every single one of these projects. But just before I jump in, guys, I want to let you know that Lou and I just dropped our favorite songs list for the 2020s decade. We just dropped it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else that you guys access your audio experience. Not only that, but Lou and I are dropping new episodes on Spotify, Apple, and Co. every single Tuesday. So guys, head to the link in the description or even the pinned comment because it's always a fun time doing those episodes, and thank you so much for the reception on the audio series. But Lou, let's jump into this, right? Because we have a lot of different albums to go through. This is a very challenging episode to do, but let's start with one of the most challenging albums on this list, To Pimp a Butterfly. Lou, give me your list.
My top 5 for T-Pab is going to be number 5, The Black or the Berry. Number 4, How Much a Dollar Cost.
W.
3, Mama.
W.
2, All Right. And 1, Wesley's Theory.
Big W. All right, so this is my first question about the top 5 on your end. I had in consideration Black or the Berry. I had it maybe around
It's the most vicious energy you're getting from Kendrick on the whole album.
I think it's one of the songs that has the best mic presence from Kendrick.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of the best productions as well. Shout out to Boy One. That's a fantastic production. I love that raw energy from Kendrick on this song. But let me ask you something like These Walls, because I'm going to get into that record very soon. Was that in contention for you?
It was in contention. It's one of the softer, warmer cuts off the album, but it wasn't one of the ones I had a hard time not putting on. Like, for me, it was more the song You, where I'm like, this is one of the craziest, wildest performances from all the different voices that Kendrick is bringing to center stage. Like, that was tough to leave off of the list. But I feel like my hottest take might be Mama, because I've seen so many people talk about how, like, it's the worst song on the album. But it's, like, the most soulful, and it's the purest song on there. The knowledge production is incredible.
Not only that, but what it means to the album
how
as
it's
well.
The origin story of T-Pab. Like, people don't realize that. So I'm really happy with that placement. But apart from that, yeah, I didn't have These Walls as like even 6 or 7.
Very interesting. All right, so should I get into mine?
Give me yours. What's
number
yours?
5, These Walls.
Okay.
Number 4, Mama. Number 3, All Right. Number 2, How Much a Dollar Cost. And then after that, number 1 is Wesley's Theory. That's going to be my ranking.
And this is what the first thing I want to ask you is, I know you're a huge fan of hood politics, so why did you not include that?
I feel like it's just more from like my personal rotation. Like what I have to really marvel at as far as like a song concept goes or even production-wise, I go to something like These Walls very often. I love the Anna Wise vocals all throughout. I love the Thundercat production throughout as well. It's a very funky song, and I feel like for the soundscape of To Pimp a Butterfly, it's one of the most unique productions on the entire album. Plus, I love the concept of the song and Kendrick Lamar's writing, so I really wanted to include that in there. I think All Right, How Much a Dollar Cost, and Wesley's Theory have to be locked in the top 5.
Come on.
All right, so I had All Right in the top 3, just like you did. I had it at number 3, you had it at number 2. But How Much a Dollar Cost, I feel like, was really making it up there as like the best on the album.
So that's your number 1?
That's my number 2.
Okay.
I had Wesley's Theory there. I feel like the opener of the album, it's just like content matter-wise, the different perspectives he's going through. It's really a genius song concept. So, all right, so far we agree, 1 for 1. Let's keep going on with this. Not All Heroes Wear Capes by Metro Boomin. People don't realize how good this album was. And not only that, but I feel like I have my top 5, but the ones I have in contention, man, I'm still going back to these songs all the time. But give me your top 5.
Top 5 is number 5, 10 Freaky Girls with 21 Savage.
Interesting.
Number 4 is Overdue with Travis Scott.
Nice.
3 is Borrowed Love with Sway Lee and Wizkid.
Wow, okay.
2 is No Complaints with Offset and Drake.
Really? Okay.
1 is Space Cadet with Gunna. And I feel like I got a good mix of like diverse songs on here. I got the 21 collaboration, which is a must for any Metro project. You got to slot in a 21 song in there. Borrowed Love going into like an R&B joint that also has hip-hop references with the Wu-Tang sample. Absolute classic, is the catchiest song on there. And Space Cadet at number 1. Do you have any issues with that?
It's going to be in my list.
Okay.
So I'll talk about it. But no, I don't have any issues with your list. But Borrowed Love, I feel like there's a couple of different songs that really I have over it besides that one.
Really?
Absolutely. I think my number 1 is going to surprise you. But I feel like if you guys are a fan of Not All Heroes Wear Capes, you guys really appreciate this song. So at number 5, Don't Come Out the House, featuring 21 Savage.
Really?
Number 5, absolutely.
Wow.
Number 4, Overdue, same placement. Number 3, Space Cadet. Number 2, 10 Freaky Girls. And then number 1, Up to Something, featuring Travis Scott and Young Thug. I don't even know how this didn't make your top 5. It is one of the best cuts on this entire album.
I mean, yeah, listen, Thug ate up that track, but I just feel like that was a song where I wasn't as like shocked or moved, even by something like Only One by Travis, like getting him in his 808s bag. That was even more of like a wow moment. But Up to Something is good, but it's more
hazy.
of like
It's exactly what you want from a Travis Scott and Young Thug collaboration.
It's more standard to me. It's
no,
like, okay.
no way. Even the production with the horns that kick in, I absolutely love this song, and it's honestly been one of my favorites and what I think is the best on the album for a very long time. Borrowed Love was really gonna make a push in there, but I had like Don't Come Out the House over it, if I'm being honest with you. I feel like the viciousness of 21 Savage, both on that track and 10 Freaky Girls, gets over there.
I love that song, but how many times do you want to listen to 21 doing the ASMR? Like,
I have no problem with it. The beat transition is way too hard. Not only that, but Space Cadet was a lock and Overdue was going to be a lock. So I think it was just a product of the track list being so strong for me. But even Dreamcatcher is one of the most underrated songs off the entire album. I love the melodic performance by Sway Lee and Travis. That was in contention.
Also, Lesbian is another song that I really enjoy. I think in terms of like two artists having great chemistry on that album, Gunna and Thugger they knew what to do.
That's an all-time collaboration.
Yeah,
between
so that was
two.
hard to leave off. But Space Cadet, my number one. What's your number one again?
Up to Something. Right.
Hot take.
But I listen, man. It's an incredible song, and it's an incredible collaboration between them both. And I feel like it's one of those songs that has maybe even aged the best for me off the entire album.
Space Cadet wipes it.
But okay, let's go on to the Forever Story. So, Lou, what's your list on this one?
Number 5, Crack Sandwich. Number 4, Stars featuring Yassine Bey. Number 3, Radar. Number 2, Cody Blue 31. And number 1, of course, System M with James Blake. Any complaints here at all?
I don't know about Radar.
Really? Are you
I don't
kidding
know about
me?
Radar. I have some other ones over
That's
it.
like the most...
it's in my honorable mentions. It's in contention. I had it around the 6 mark.
That's one of the most high voltage performances.
I know.
Even like all the football sounds and references, like taking you back to his childhood with the whistles, like that just made you feel like this is a part of that come-up story from JID.
It's a great song.
Which is the point of the album.
It's a great song. And I love that it's placed at the beginning of the track list as well. I feel like it does bring life to the Forever
you can't
Story.
Shade that one.
I'm not shading it. I think it's an incredible song, but I do feel like there's certain songs that made my list that have better song concepts.
I'll say this: the two songs that I had a hard time like saying goodbye to were Just in Time with Lil Wayne, because you got Jid and Lil Wayne on the same song and it lived up to everything it should have been, and also Surround Sound, where you get like some of the illest and like most deranged flows in Jid's catalog.
Were you considering Dance Now, considering it was one of the most popular off the album? That was something I was really looking at, because I'm a really big fan of that sample flip, and I love Jid's performances.
I was considering it. I think that you're also getting like some of the slickest wordplay with the whole like Ja Morant line, and even the Michael Jackson reference. Like there's a lot of clever wordplay within it, but I think there's better cuts on it.
All right, let me go for my top 5.
So nothing too controversial with my list then.
We have 3 of the same placements. I'll read this out right now. 5 is Better Days. Number 4 is Crack Sandwich. Number 3 is 2007. Number 2 is Cody Blue 31. And then number 1 is going to be System M. So our 1 and 2, I think that's a lock. We knew that from the beginning. And even when I was doing my notes, I'm like, Lou for sure has the same top 2 as me. But going back to 2007, this has been one of the biggest growers for me on the entire album, because it's like J.I.D's Last Call. I feel like conceptual-wise, it really wraps up the Forever Story, and it was kind of a shame in our first live album experience for the Forever Story, which you guys could go watch right now on our Patreon. It wasn't released, but then after that, now it's available on DSPs, but I think it's one of the strongest songs off of the entire album.
That's so surprising to me.
Why? What's wrong with 2007? All the different types of perspectives he's going through. It's completely unique to Jid's catalog as a whole. The production is incredible. The inclusion of J. Cole, like, I love what the song means to the album. I think it's easily one of the best.
To me, it almost felt like more of a last call, note to self type of outro, where it's like, musically, it's not one of the more impressive songs on the album, but it's sort of like summing up everything that it took for Jid to get to where he got to, and the whole like J. Cole part of the conversation. I fuck with that, but like musically, in terms of like
the production's incredible, bro. The production is beautiful. It's a 7-minute song. Like the way that J. Cole comes in at the end, like, because I'm such a big fan of Last Call. If I were to do a ranking of the College Dropout, Last Call would really be up there for me. Because I'm a big, like, I'll listen to the last part of Last Call, bro. I feel like it's motivational, gives me that sort of like hunger and that battery in my back, and I feel like 2007 did that for me. And I feel like it introduced the Forever Story for me, because when I got to listen to this on YouTube, I'm like, wow, he's coming with a different type of energy. But Better Days, I feel like, is one of the most underrated tracks on the entire album. J.I.D's talking about super personal subject matter, getting into certain relationships that he has in his life, and how the prison system played into that. I really do think that it was really a well-written song, and it's gorgeous. It really reminds me off of something that you might find on like the Never Story. But going out to Crack Sandwich, the storytelling at the end is sick.
Even Stars with with Yassine Bey was a big grower for me because
That was an
I
honorable
always
mention.
fucked with it, but that's a song that just production-wise, just the trippiness of it, the manipulated J.I.D vocals, the way that he sounded so good with Mos Def, and the fact that he even chose a beat that has like this spiritual and ethereal vibe. It was perfect for Mos Def to be rapping over. So that's a song that I think is one of the more accessible ones off the album. So you had to put that in there. You didn't have it though, right?
I had it as honorable mention. It's one of my favorite to
Interesting.
play off the album, but I do feel like there's better songs in front of it. But okay, let's keep going on with this. Let's go on to the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. Lou, give me your top 5.
This was the one that I struggle with the most, I'll
It
be
is.
honest with you, just because it's a long track list and it's one of the best rap albums of all fucking time. So to only choose 5 here was not easy. I'll say this, though. What really surprised me in hindsight was the fact that a lot of my favorites ended up being on like the first half of the track list. Like most of my cuts are going to be within that first half. So number 5 is going to be To Zion featuring Carlos Santana.
Yes.
Number 4 is going to be Doo-Wop. Number 3 is going to be Final Hour, which is probably the most controversial, maybe, because it's not that popular.
It's a bit of a
Number
steamy
2
take.
is going to be Lost Ones, and number 1 is going to be X Factor. And I think X Factor is just like the best vocal performance of Lauryn Hill's.
Well, I
like,
also feel like
career.
it's maybe one of the best performances of singing and rapping that you'll find on the entire
Bro,
album.
that breakdown of the end where she's like, care for me, like
Incredible.
Just the way that she has the background vocals and she has the harmonies, just the vocal layering on X Factor is top tier. It's magical.
I found my love again for To Zion. When I get into my list, I might speak
Yeah.
about it a bit more, but I feel like production-wise, it's one of the strongest produced songs on the entire album.
So Final Hour, which is the one that you were kind of looking at me crooked for, I'll explain why I chose it.
Well, I'm not looking at you crooked. I'm just saying for a top 5,
It's not
I feel
a popular pick.
I feel
know
like it is
that.
one of the stronger. I feel like it's one of the stronger cuts off the album, but I have one in front of it for my
This
list.
is arguably, if not her best rapping performance on a technical level. This is like, I could put this next to some of the verses on It Was Written, and they would sound like just on par. I feel like if I were to make an argument for Lauryn Hill being the best female MC of all time, this is the song that I would nominate to show people. It truly is like lyrical dominance from beginning to end.
I
and,
can't argue that.
I had to put it in, even though it's not as popular. But take me through your list.
All right, my list is gonna go like this: 5, Nothing Even Matters featuring D'Angelo. That
Nice.
had to make a slot in there. 4 is Lost Ones. 3 is To Zion featuring Carlos Santana. Number 2 is Doo-Wop, and then number 1 is X Factor.
Oh, you have X Factor at 1 too.
absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah, it's the best song on the entire album. I think
Yeah.
that going back to this track list, it was so surprising to find my love again for it because I don't go often like to the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. I'll do my dives every like let's say couple of months, but I really, really, really went back and I used Genius. I went through all the production credits and I was just really getting engulfed into the album experience. And it's easily one of the best albums I've ever listened to. And it's just such a beautiful experience from a rapping and singing standpoint. So I think that's what kind of motivated this list for me. I tried to find that duality, but the reason why Nothing Even Matters, Nothing Even Matters.
That's what I was going to
excuse me,
ask you. What made you put that
it's
on
the best R&B, pure R&B cut on the
Okay.
entire album, and I really value that. And I'm also such a big fan of D'Angelo, and I feel like you're finding, well, I wouldn't say Lauryn Hill's a pure R&B artist, but she's an incredible R&B artist at that. The way that she dives into it, you're finding two prime artists, two legendary artists in their prime coming together for one record on this album, and it's easily the best pure R&B cut off of the track list. So that's why I included it into the top 5.
Another one that was hard to leave off was Everything Is Everything.
Yes,
That song
that's
is
a
maybe
big
like
one.
the
That's in
best
contention.
blend of rapping and singing that you'll find on the
That's
album.
it.
And even the piano from John Legend on there, incredible.
Absolutely.
But let's move on. The Melodic Blue by Baby Keem, my top 5. You might be surprised. Number 5 is 16. Number 4 is going to be Trademark USA.
Nice,
Number 3 is going to be Boomin.
nice.
Number 2 is going to be Scapegoats. And number 1, Family Ties with Kendrick.
Very interesting. So I was considering Scapegoats, but I felt like it was too short of a song to have in my top 5. I felt like it was a bit more of an interlude.
It's very short, but I just feel like it's it's refreshing when you go through that album to get Baby Keem over the soul sample and to give some of his most personal offerings and also show you that like he could make these introspective lyrical cuts when he wants to. I think he proved a lot of people wrong when it came to that track, and that's why I think there's so much value behind it. But the song Scars, I really wanted to throw in. There's such a sick sample of the Love Lockdown drums on that song, and again, one of the more personal cuts. And also, Vent is another song that I had a hard time leaving off because I think it has one of the hardest fucking beats on the whole thing.
It's one of the best produced songs on the album, absolutely. But okay, let me go through my top 5. Number 5, I have Trademark USA. Number 4, I have Do Rag Activity. Number 3, I have First Order of Business. Number 2, I have Boomin. And the number 1, I have Family Ties. So, like you said, Vent was definitely in contention. Lost Souls as well was in contention. But First Order of Business for me was always one of my favorite songs off of the album. I love the personal subject matter by Baby Keem, just talking about, taking care of his mother, taking care of his woman, taking care of certain key figures in his life when he does make it and when he gets that type of success. And I found that super relatable and super inspiring. I also love the melodies that he attacks on this song. I feel like rhythmically, it's one of his best performances on the album, just as far as like flow goes and locking into a consistent performance. The replay value on the song is incredible. It's super catchy as well, so that had to make it. Then after that, Boomin, I think that no doubt this was going to be making my top 5. It's really one of the best songs off of the entire album, and I feel like it's one of the most underrated ones at that too.
That's a hell of a festival song. I got to hear that live, bro, and like those Latin horns ringing off, it brings a different feeling. And again, that's what I value out of the Melodic Blue, is just the unpredictable sounds within that album, and that's what you get on something like Boomin, or even something like 16 that I included, where you're getting a full-on pop song by Baby Keem, and you're wondering, like, I didn't even know he was capable of this.
Yeah, how about Do-Rag Activity? You didn't even have that in contention, did you?
I had it in contention for sure. I think that it's a great song. I don't think you're getting the most interesting flows and cadences from Keem on that track. I think it is one of the waviest ones, and in terms of the hook, it's catchy. It was a popular song, but there's way more value in other areas of the track list for me.
I don't know. I just feel like it's one of the biggest bangers off of the album as far as replay value goes. It's one of the best aux songs off of the album as well to play, let's say, in crowds too. There's an accessibility factor with it. I'm a big fan of the production too, but Trademark USA was always going to make both of our lists. But let's go on to Taboo. What do you got, Lou? What's in contention?
Taboo, top 5. Number 5, The Blackest Balloon. Number 4, Mad I Got It. Number 3, Sirens with J.I.D and Billie Eilish. Number 2 is Vengeance with JPEG Mafia and Zilla Kami. And number 1 is Black Balloons with 12lin and Gold Link. And there's a lot of songs I wanted to put in here. I mean, Sumo being one of them. In terms of just having a straight out smacker that will blow the speakers in your car, Sumo is the ultimate aux song on this entire track
That
list.
was in contention for me as well.
Cloud Cobain is another one that I absolutely love, just because he revealed a lot of the dark truths within the music industry, especially someone coming from his generation, just rapping about how the industry is being clouded by rappers chasing clout and by record labels picking pockets of artists. I love everything to do with that track, including the video. That was hard to leave off. But to be honest, almost any top 5 for me is acceptable on this album, just because even if you were to tell me like Black Metal Terrorist was your number 1, I could see why. Like, just having Denzel going into like the new metal sound, mind-blowing. So, even whatever you tell me, like, I'm not going to have too much to argue.
I have a completely different ranking than you have.
Really?
Yes, absolutely.
Let me guess. You have Sirens 1.
Sirens is going to be number 1, but don't worry, I'll get into my list. 5, Switch It Up. 4, Mad I Got It. 3, I have Perks. 2, I have Black Balloons, and then number 1, I have Sirens.
That's not totally different. We have like 3 or 4 of the same songs.
Do we actually? What do we have together?
Mad I Got It, Sirens, Black Balloons.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
All right, so that's not bad. So I got Perks and Switch It Up in there. I think Switch It Up is one of the best rapping performances, bar for bar, on the entire album.
Flow switches.
Yes, absolutely. That's going to be in this track ranking right away. I was considering Vengeance as well. It was just that I was like, okay, I can maybe put Mad I Got It and Switch It Up in front of it from a rapping standpoint, and also from a production standpoint. I do feel like it's a bit more interesting to my ears and like what I'm used to as a rap fan. So that's the way that I did it. Perks, kind of the same feeling with Sumo, where I feel like it is one of the biggest bangers off the album, but it's the one that kind of gets left behind in front, like in back of Sumo. But I feel like it's a better song than Sumo. I think that's maybe a hot take, but I think it is one of the biggest bangers off of this album. And then Black Balloons at number 1, like just such a catchy, number 2 for me, such a catchy chorus, bro, incredible. And then obviously Sirens number 1. Ultimate J.I.D and Denzel Curry collaboration.
Absolutely. Even the Billie Eilish vocals are stunning on that song. So, yeah, honestly, this is one where it's like I said, you could put any top 5 and I'd be okay with it. But let's move on. Next up, we have Faces by Mac Miller. I think this is another one where I really struggle to really condense it to a 5. But let's see what we got. Number 5 is going to be Therapy. Okay. Number 4 is going to be Angel Dust. Number 3 is going to be Rain with Vince Staples. Number 2 is Here We Go. And number 1 is Diablo. And I feel like you have a completely different list.
Actually, we have 4 out of the same selections.
Oh, wow.
Except for maybe one of them. And I'll explain to you why one of them. So Angel Dust, that's very interesting, okay? So I took psychedelics and I listened to this album, and it completely changed the way that I looked at it. I'm telling you, it is one of the best albums to listen to, like, while you're in that type of state of mind. And shout out to my cousin Chris. We had a fantastic trip with it. But even a song that I was considering, just because like it meant so much that one trip, I have to go through.
You didn't include Angel Dust?
I didn't include Angel
Dust.
Dust. No.
Like, to me, that's a perfect representation of Faces, just because it's one of the trippiest beats on the album. It feels like Mac is hallucinating in real time, and even the one-liners like execution flow at your neck like new cologne, like. Bro,
I have friends with Schoolboy
crazy.
Q was a song that really tripped me out, bro. That's a scary song to listen to.
It is.
That's a trippy fucking song, and it's also one of the songs that has the biggest runtime on the album. So that was in consideration for me. Another song that I felt like, man, how am I not including this? But it just barely made the cut. It was between this and my number 5 was New Faces V2.
Yeah.
That was really in contention for me as well. I feel like one of the most underrated songs off of this album is Uber with Mike Jones, bro. That production is trippy. Like just the whole spiders in my applesauce type of shit. Like, that's some creepy stuff. So
I also love Funeral. I think that's a really great track. It's just a bit on the darker side, so maybe it's not like the most replayable. But
how about something that has a bit more of like a psychedelic aspect to it, like a Colors and Shapes?
Yeah.
That's one of the most popular songs off of the albums. That was in contention for me as well.
That was in contention. Also, the bonus track, which got added on when it came out in streaming, fell in love with that song in terms of just the bounciness of it, the liveliness, the hook. Super engaging. But what's your top 5?
All right, top 5. I got number 5, Polo Jeans featuring Earl Sweatshirt.
Nice.
Number 4, I have Rain featuring Vince Staples. 3, I have Therapy. 2, I have Here We Go. And number 1, I have Diablo. Diablo is going to be a lock on everyone's list, I think.
I think Here We Go should also be a lock. That's like the ultimate like victory lap. If you're a Mac Miller fan, like,
yeah, it's really incredible.
doing it all without the Drake feature. The horns on that song.
Incredible.
Oh,
but Therapy was one of the songs that grew on me the most. I really do feel like it has that triumphant energy from Mac Miller. Those songs are like the bright points of the album.
Yeah.
Then you get into something like Rain with Vince Staples. It's dark when it comes down to the content matter. It feels like a very sad production style. I love this song when I'm driving in the rain, actually, legitimately. Like, this is a perfect tempo setter when, bad weather outside. And then Polo Jeans, I'll explain to you why. It's one of my favorite beats off of the entire album. You have, like, this free-falling noise that comes in and out of the production. And after that, I love the collaboration between Mac Miller and Earl. It's a match made in heaven, and I feel like it is one of the strongest collaborations off of the album. But let's keep going on with this. All My Heroes Are Cornballs by JPEG Mafia. Lou, how did you like it, man? How was the experience?
I mean, it wasn't my first time going through it, but a lot of people wanted to hear us talk about this album just because it's one of the JPEG Mafia albums that we haven't really brought into too much content. And I think that a reason for that being, at least for myself, is that I think it's my least favorite JPEG Mafia experience out of every project I've gone through, including Veteran, including LP. To me, it's really the auto-tune performances that rub me the wrong way, and it's sort of a big motif all throughout the album.
Yeah, you could see that there's a bit of a pop element to it, but I feel like it kind of plays in with some of the harsher, more like metalcore.
It's always mixed in with something else.
Yeah, like you have like two sides of the extreme on this album, and it's a really hard album to gauge. That's what I figured out. Like with LP, it took me a couple of listens, but I was able to really dive in. Same thing with Veteran, and even something like Scaring the Hose of This Year. But All My Heroes Are Cornballs it's a curveball at every single
it is
at every single turn. But okay, what's your top 5?
So top 5. Number 5 is Thought Tactics. Number 4 is going to be Pappy, I Missed You. Number 3 is going to be Keenan versus Kel.
I love that song.
Yeah. Number 2 is going to be Jesus Forgive Me, I Am a Thought. Number 1 is going to be Free the Frail with Helena the Land, and that is
song.
One of the best JPEG Mafia songs I've ever listened to. The production is dizzying. I love the chorus. I love the chorus on it, the writing. Also, Helena's vocals at the end. Like, there's no production. It's pretty much a cappella. They're so raw and beautiful.
Do you feel like this is one of the most straightforward JPEG Mafia songs you've ever heard?
Absolutely. And I think that's why it ended up being number 1, is that it's the most accessible. And it's also the most authentic song on here. Like, he's fucking around all over this track list. Like, he's rapping from a female's perspective on some tracks. But this one was JPEG Mafia in his element, rapping about, like, his own doubts about his career and about, like, where he views himself in the music scene. So, love the writing. Love all the elements of the track. Jesus Forgive Me, I'm a Thought. I love that one just because it goes from left to right so quick. There's so many like different transitions from that singing I was talking about to the screamo elements. So that was a big one for me. But are there any surprises that you noticed here?
No, honestly, because we have a very similar list. Number 5, I have Free the Frail. That was going to be making the list every single day. After that, number 4, I have Post-Verified Lifestyle. This is one of the most low-key songs off of the album, but I'll explain to you why later. Number 3, Grimy Waifu. That was another song that I really fucked with that I wanted to make my top 3. Number 2, Keenan vs. Kel. And then after that, number 1, Jesus Forgive Me, I Am a Thought. So the reason why I like Jesus Forgive Me is I love the production, bro. It's so, like... It feels like you're getting fucking knocked in the head with a baseball bat, bro, and you're dizzy and you don't know where you're going with it.
And yet there's gospel vibes too.
Like it's crazy because he's actually kind of like what Danny Brown and him did on Scaring the Hose. What song was that, bro? Where they
God Loves You, I think.
I believe that was the title of it, where they were using the biblical references to like kind of depict. You guys know the content matter of that song. This is kind of a similar format for me. So when going back to it, I'm like, oh shit, like. Now I put the dots together. So that's why I have a number 1, Keenan vs. Kel. I love the duality, bro. You get this more somber production on the first half, and then, fuck, bro, like it gets dark.
Sirens later on?
It gets dark. It gets really dark. It feels like the sirens are going off in a town, like about to go to battle. That's really the way I feel about that track. Grimy Waifu, I feel like it was a very wavy song for JPEG Mafia. Kind of like the way I feel about Free the Frail, where it's a bit more of a straightforward track. It's not too unpredictable. I feel the same way about this type of production. It's very wavy. It feels good for JPEG Mafia, and I like the way that his vocals were layered on this song. And then after that, Post-Verified Lifestyle, maybe a bit of a hotter take, but it was one of those songs that just spoke to me through my re-listen. I'm like, man, this is a fucking quality song. And again, another song that's a bit more straightforward for the track list. I feel like there's not too many curveballs within it, but for the most part, it's still super strong. So that's going to be my ranking. Let's keep going on with this. The House is Burning.
The House is Burning. Number 5. What are you gonna say?
I think I was right wanting to giving it a great rating, bro, out there review.
I might turn around on that. Yeah, the more that I listen to it, the more that it's just aging fucking graciously, bro. Like it really is an incredible album. Even though the reason why I felt like it wasn't as quality as maybe his previous work, and maybe that's my own fault for playing the comparing and contrast game, is just that more than ever there was
a
very
haziness.
visibly. Yeah, there was a bit sleepier performances and also like a couple of skips on the track list, to be honest. So my top 5 was somewhat easy to formulate. Number 5, The House is Burning. Number 4, Dark Side. Number 3, Rest in Peace Young. Number 2, Happy Birthday to You. And number 1, Headshots. And the tough ones, for me to leave off included Claymores with Semino.
Yeah, that was a tough one for me as well.
And also What You Said with Doechii and Cal Banks.
Also, All Herb as well was a big one for me that I didn't
hearing
include.
Zay rapping over like cowbells and 808s and giving you that West Coast feel. A perfect driving song, What You Said. Love that song. So that was a tough one.
This is one of these albums
off.
for myself, at least, where I'm able to play it from start to finish and just have it on loop. Just have it on loop. It's so accessible as an album, and to be honest with you, it's one of my favorite albums from Zay just because of the types of different performances you're getting, and I love that haziness about Zay. I love those types of slurred flows and deliveries. I feel like it's so unique to his catalog, and I'm so happy that they took time with this album because the more and more I listen to it, the more polished it sounds. Like everything is so well sequenced as well. Even something like Chad, for example. I'm not sure if you're a fan of that song.
It's all right.
That's a big standout for me as well, just because I love the melodies on this album too, and Chad is a perfect standout for that.
The one song that I feel like I have that you maybe don't is The House is Burning. Am I right about that?
Let me go through my list then. Number 5, The House is Burning.
Okay.
Number 4, Dark Side. Number 3, Happy Birthday to You. Number 2, Rest in Peace Young. And number 1, Headshots. We have the exact same selections. The only things that I feel like are kind of inverse are Happy Birthday to You. For myself at 3, you had it at 2, and then Rest in Peace Young is at 2 for me, and it was at 3 for you.
Yeah, and number 5 was, so we have literally the exact same order on this. I think The House is Burning, though, is like the most underrated song on there, just because that's a song where through the vocal mixing and through like Zay's hook, you're getting these feelings of like paranoia and of like uncertainty, and like that's the song where it's like it feels like the walls are caving in on Isaiah.
It feels like because the whole chorus is like someone's peeking at me through my window. Exactly.
Yeah.
And like the way that plays with like, I'm not sure if it's a sample or I'm not sure how they compose that production, but like it feels very eerie, feels very dark. It feels like you're in an Insidious film, to be honest with you. But Happy Birthday to You, one of the best rapping performances off the entire album. I think it's the best sample flip, maybe one of them off of the entire album. That's another thing that I have to give it. And then after that, Dark Side, the way that it started off the album, it's a bit more hazy, a bit more lethargic from Isaiah Rashad, but I love that from him, and that's something that I really appreciated from this track list. So let's end off this episode on a strong note, an album that Lou and I maybe considered perfect, at this point in time. And this is going to be Sometimes I Might Be Introvert by Little Sims, released in 2021. Lou, go through it,
That's
bro.
the biggest regret in terms of our music reviewing days, is not giving Simbi the perfect rating. Truly, it is a flawless track list from start to finish. So number 5 is going to be Protect My Energy. Number 4 is going to be Two Worlds Apart. Number 3 is going to be Little Q Part 2. Number 2 is going to be Introvert, and number 1 is going to be I Love You, I Hate You. Now, in terms of like songs that I had a hard time leaving off, Woman with Cleo Soul, I think that's one of the classiest songs on here. Arguably the best hook.
Wow, that is.
I think
that's criminal. Not even to have it in the top 5.
Listen, it's a great song about female empowerment. I love the organs. I love the snappy snares. Everything about it. One of the best hooks, like I said. But there is more offered in these other tracks, writing-wise and also performance-wise. And
I'm not sure.
Something like Protect My Energy, that was huge because Little Sims made like this 80s dance record and shows you that she can carry that with her own
not
vocals.
better than Women. There's
yes,
no
it
way.
is.
There's no way.
'Cause,
Absolutely
bro,
not.
not only did she pull off the singing, but she pulled it off for the theme of the album.
I guess. All right.
It was.
I mean, if that's what you value, that's what you
What do
value.
you mean?
But,
There's no other.
protect,
Wait, let me finish. There's no other performance like that on the album. How wouldn't I value that?
Oh,
It's so unique.
That's what I'm not saying you don't value it. I said that's what you value. There's no need to get all crazy with it. Number 5, Introvert. Number 4, I Love You, I Hate You. Number 3, Two Worlds Apart. And number 2, Little Q Part 2. Number 1, Woman.
Number one woman?
Number
No.
1 woman, bro. I think musically and production-wise, it's one of the best off of the album. Just the synths and just like how beautiful that song sounds, bro. It's absolutely gorgeous. I think the best feature of the album is also on this song with Cleo Soul. That vocal performance is top tier, and I feel like Little Sims is talking about what being a woman means to her and everything that comes with it and how that affects her personal life and her perspective on the world. I do feel like content matter-wise, it is a big standout on this album. So when I look at the production, I look at the feature, and I look at the content matter, it's a perfect trifecta for me, and that is why I think it is one of the best off of the album. Listen, I could have Little Q Part 2 at number 1. That was in contention for my top spot. Two Worlds Apart is another fantastic song. I Love You, I Hate You, the sample flip playing into the content matter. And then I had Protect My Energy as in like an honorable mention as far as the contention goes. It was between that and Introvert. But I feel like Introvert was maybe like the most aggressive Little Sims cut off of the entire album from a rapping performance-wise. It feels like something you'd find on the blueprint almost, if that makes sense to you, bro. Like
I see what you mean.
something a bit more like Hard Knock, like in your face. I'm here and I'm opening up this album on this way.
It was like a political, like protest type of track. It was what it felt like, but an in-your-face one, an aggressive one. It's sort of like a Run the Jewels type of track in terms of giving you a lot of political subject matter in this packaging of this big brash sound.
Yeah, and how did you like the extended introduction on the song as well?
I loved it, bro. You're getting some of the best
beautiful.
instrumentation, bro. Like all the strings on there, so cinematic. Like that's again one of those songs that makes you feel like you're living through a James Bond score through the music. So flawless album. Not too many places where we disagreed. I feel like
when it comes down to tracklist ranking, you and I have a similar taste on certain things, and that's why our reviews usually align. Is because we have a similar taste when it comes down to album and track sequencing. But guys, that's going to close off the episode. Thank you so much for sitting here and watching us talk about music. We really appreciate you. And leave it down in the comments. What did we get right? What did we get wrong? And what should we bring in for this next episode? Because this is something that we're going to be bringing back in the future. Much love to everyone that came in today. And like I said at the beginning of this video, Lou and I just dropped our episode on our favorite songs of the 2020s decade. You guys can go access that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else you guys access your audio experiences. Check the link in the description and the pinned comment. It means the world to us. So much love to everyone. I hope you guys have a fantastic week, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.